hockey fans. We've got a special crossover episode for you as you've got two teams in the Pacific Division hitting the ice today. It's a Seattle Kraken game day. And who are we playing? None other than the Vancouver Canucks. So I am joined by Justin Pooni. How are you?
I'm doing good, Erica. How are you? I'm glad to be a part of this crossover. I'm excited. Unfortunately, both teams are not really in the playoff chase, but it's still always fun when the Kraken and the Canucks do battle. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm ready to have some fun.
Well, let's get cracking, as we like to say at Locked On Kraken. We're going to give you the players to watch, who we think's going to make an impact in the game, and obviously the stats and facts as our two teams hit the ice later tonight. Also, I forgot to ask, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did. You pronounced it right.
Okay, fantastic. I was like,
You got it right.
So, sorry, we'll have to edit that, but this is where our intro will go anyway.
Totally.
Okay, great. All right, hockey fans. As always, over at Locked On Kraken, we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. But also, we've got some Locked On Canucks fans as well, Justin. So we're excited again to have this Pacific Division rivalry coming down to the wire for both of our seasons, essentially. But it's still a good time. Okay, so Justin, why don't we get started with tonight's matchup, and then we'll get to know a little bit more about how the season has gone for the Vancouver Canucks and the Seattle Kraken, respectively. All right.
I think all Canucks fans know this season kind of, at least in my opinion, started off with a lot of promise and a lot of hope that potentially finally a full complete season will transpire into a nice playoff berth. And unfortunately, they got off to the worst start possible, firing head coach Travis Green, firing GM Jim Benning, hiring new president of hockey operations Jim Rutherford, hiring new head coach Bruce Roach, and the team kind of took off. They went on a 10-game win streak, kind of cooled off, and then lately they were obviously on fire, a seven-game win streak, and everybody thought the playoffs were in reach, but unfortunately, too little, too late, and they're still mathematically alive, but if we're thinking with our heads, not our hearts, we all kind of know that it's another season, another wasted season, another season looking at the draft lottery rather than the playoff standings.
Yeah, that's a tough go. And since we got right into that, let's take a look here at these standings in the West in particular. I mean, we just took on the Colorado Avalanche. We know that they've been zooming through. But if we look at the division in particular, obviously a division that we both know very well. You see, we're not really in the running anywhere there. We kind of knew that was going to be the case. Expansion franchise and really just couldn't get any stride. We just got our longest win streak, which was 3 games, and then got that snapped unceremoniously by the Minnesota Wild. But you see some of the teams up here, Calgary, Edmonton, even Los Angeles, and Vegas fighting for their lives tonight, Justin.
That was a very that game on Sunday against San Jose was if Vegas does not make the playoffs, will haunt them for a very long time.
Yes, indeed. And you know what? We were talking about it with another podcast that covers the Minnesota Wild. You got to win the games. If you're going to be a playoff team, you got to win the games with teams that really haven't proven that they're a contender.
1,000%.
And that's what makes the difference. We've played spoiler a time or two here this season. I will say selfishly, before we get into our matchup tonight, I will say selfishly that when we started the Locked On Kraken podcast, since we're the new kids on the block, just got started in almost a year in July. But I did make a prediction that we would win a Stanley Cup, that being the Seattle Kraken, before the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So selfishly, if they get booted from the playoffs this season, it gives me a little bit of time to make that prediction come true.
See, I thought you were gonna go that the Seattle Kraken were guaranteed to win a Stanley Cup for the Canucks, and I was gonna be like, well, that's not.
Oh,
I was like, wow, already we just started this. You're already throwing the jabs at us like that. But
no, 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 no.
no, I think, hey, I think for Seattle, it was kind of very high expectation for people to expect them to be like Vegas and have that Vegas like success right away because what Vegas did in that first year was kind of astounding, making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. And I think Seattle's going about it the right way, building with young players into the draft and creating a good, a good foundation. I always talk about on my podcast that if you want to be successful in a business or a sports team or anything like that, you have to have a solid foundation and build your way up. And I think Seattle's building that strong foundation right now.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So many things are different between Las Vegas and
Mhm.
Seattle. Ron Francis had made that evidently clear. That being said, it's going to be a really interesting offseason. I think this is where he has to cut his teeth as a general manager for an expansion franchise to kind of exercise all those Golden Knights demons and really, stop making the excuses. And now we're not exactly in the same place, but much closer to a level playing field with no expansion draft coming up. We'll have another entry draft coming up,
Mhm.
and we get to play the free agency game. And obviously, we got a lot of draft picks, so I'm thinking we're
Yeah.
going to move some of those.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey,
So,
those are assets that you can use to build your roster. But something the Canucks fans wish they did more of, utilize their draft picks to acquire new players or replenish the system.
exactly. So that comes with a little bit of heartache and heartbreak. I know everyone was looking at us as, the Mr. Steal Your Man, in the summer. But now, we're the ones having to offload some guys already at the trade deadline. And methinks it's going to happen again in the offseason. But okay, we're going to get a little bit more into our teams and what all of that looks like. But let's get into the game tonight because I know I took some early jabs at Vegas. I mean, it was right there, low hanging fruit, had to do it. But now it's when, we become rivals
Yeah,
because
no,
we've
no more.
got
It's the gloves are off, as they say.
gloves are off. That being said, the Seattle Kraken already have a few bruises. That being that you quite squarely have the series.
Hmm.
There's nothing that we can do about that at this point in time. That being said, we always do want to try and be competitive here. You can see that both teams are on, unfortunately, a two-game losing streak. The Seattle Kraken exactly at 500 in their last 10, whereas you're 6-2-2. So give us a little insight. What have the last handful of games looked like for the Canucks?
Well, I think the last 10 games have been just that, what like I mentioned, that whole push for the playoffs, minus the last two games in Minnesota and Calgary. The Canucks were the hottest team in the league. They were playing, firing on all cylinders. They were getting contributions from the top of the line all the way down to the bottom. Guys like Elias Pettersson, who many people at the beginning of the season were questioning, is he just really that all-star level caliber player? GM Patrick Allvin even said in the media that he thought the Canucks didn't have a superstar caliber player. And when you look at Elias Pettersson's last 30 odd games or so, he's on pace for a 52 goal season plus another around 110 points. That's a superstar, in my opinion, right there. Unfortunately, we lost our captain, Bo Horvat, to injury, who's basically going to be out for the season. He had just had a career year, 31 goals. JT Miller has had an awesome year, 96 points. Hopefully, he cracks the 100-point barrier. Quinn Hughes has had 60-plus points from the back end. So there's a lot of good stories with the Canucks, but there's also the same old story of no playoffs. And I think we can attest that to just a slow start that they couldn't bounce back from.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely looking. We're still mathematically live. I think unfortunately, I think we're gonna beat the Kraken tonight for you guys' expense, but we're all gonna be in the same spot in a week or so.
Yeah, indeed. And that's an interesting point. As we can see here, in the last handful of matchups, we had the October game, one in January, one in February. We're 0-3 in these matchups against
Hey,
Vancouver. So statistically, just even looking at those stats, we'll get into some of the other ones in a little bit here. Just looking at those stats, it's not looking good for my boys. You mentioned losing your captain. We lost our captain as well,
via
not to
trade.
injury, but to the trade deadline. Gio didn't even even play in the game that honored his
Yeah.
1000th game, because it was right there leading up to the trade deadline. So we've had our bumps and bruises. Came out the gate with 5 players for our brand new expansion team in COVID protocol.
Mhm.
Just not what we expected. That being said, Joey Decord was called up from the Charlotte Checkers. Technically will be a Florida Panthers affiliate moving forward, but we're sharing that AHL team with them. Also going to be with the team. And our head coach, Dave Haxtell, we're expecting to see Joey at some point in time. Not sure we'll see him tonight, but there's a handful of games coming up here in Seattle before Charlotte. They have a bye in the first round of the AHL
Mhm.
playoffs. So he'll eventually go back there. So I'm kind of with you. It's not looking good for our boys. Like I said, we'll break down maybe some areas where we can steal a game. But, I think learning how to be a complete team is something that Seattle has just not done. We talk a lot about this on Locked On Kraken, that Seattle's kind of like a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Like they emulate a teenager. It's like they know what to do. They're old enough to, kind of, wash their hands and cook their own food. But if they actually do it, is the
Yeah.
question.
Well, also it comes down to it's an expansion franchise, right? It's gonna take this building. You got to set the right culture, set the right mentality, and how you can. And it's year one, right? It's
Exactly.
year one, and I'm definitely making a lot of friends in Seattle because I've been praising the Kraken a lot right now, so that's good.
Hey, well, we love to hear it. We need all of the good reinforcement as possible. No, that being said, I mean, we're not in a point yet in our franchise history where everyone's kind of down and out, dejected. I'm saying this as a New York Mets fan, so I know
Ah,
that road very well. I know that road very well. So everything's new and fresh, and hopefully we're taking that big momentum, as I like to say, into next season. But Justin, coming up next, let's get into again the stats and facts with the head to head. We know you are going to win the season series regardless of what happens tonight, but maybe the Seattle Kraken can get some sparks flying on the road. So we're going to talk about that. But right now, let's talk about HelloFresh. So Justin, you and I were talking.
mhm.
Obviously, we're both a part of the Locked On NHL network here with our respective teams. But I actually, as part of the Locked On NHL network, have been able to try HelloFresh. A lot of the Locked On Kraken listeners know I recently relocated. I'm on the road a lot, just doing other stuff in sports media. So getting to the grocery store and getting good quality food is not always something that I have time for or even access to. So what I love about HelloFresh is that I can go onto the website, I can pick my plan, and I can set my meals for the next 2 weeks. The HelloFresh chefs really know how to diversify menus, and everything is seasonal. So that increases the viability and the freshness of the food that you're getting. As I mentioned, you can customize and you can swap things out. Like, I'm not a big pork eater, so I can always swap that out if it happens to populate up for me in their back end. And I just think it's amazing. So, what we want you to do is exactly what I did. Go to HelloFresh.com locked on 16. And if you use promo code locked on 16, you will get up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts as a part of this promo. I am always talking on Locked on Kraken about staying fueled, staying hydrated, staying healthy, and HelloFresh can keep you in the running if that's one of your goals. Can't keep the Seattle Kraken in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but can definitely keep you on track with your health, excuse me. So again, go to hellofresh.com/locked on 16 and use promo code locked on 16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Happy cooking. And we are back with another episode, crossover or squadcast. Some might say squidcast of Locked on Kraken, along with Locked on Canucks. I'm Erica Ayala, your host of Locked on Kraken, with Justin Pooni, your host of Locked on Canucks. And just a reminder that Justin, myself, and all of the other Locked on NHL hosts when we have games like tonight, it's a game day. We do post game recaps, and you can find all of those curated on Locked On Now. And just like everything else on the channel and in the network, it is available on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts. All right, Justin, we made sure that we're paying the bills. Now let's get down to the business. All right. Now this is what the breakdown looks like. I say that I like to go over these numbers, but that's a little bit of a farce.
Kind of
I
a
actually
sad
don't
tale.
like. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sad tale, and it's a broken record at that, you know. But when you look at some of these power play percentages, penalty kill percentages, I mean, you know, what has been the story special teams throughout the season for the Vancouver Canucks, and is there anything in these stats and facts that worries you a little bit when it comes to the head-to-head with the Seattle Kraken?
If I want to put it bluntly, nothing really. No, it's the NHL. Anybody can get got any game. The one thing about the Canucks, that I will say with special teams wise, going back to your first question, is it was kind of a tale of two halves, kind of like I mentioned before the season.
Mm.
The Canucks power play kind of got off to a slow start, and then as you know, Boudreaux came in and the new regime sort of came in, we saw the power play take off, and right now they're currently sitting, I think, 8th or 9th in the league right now. So definitely, it's being sorry, they're tied for 9th. Excuse me, they're tied for 9th right now, top 10 power play, and I think the trajectory that you project, and we're looking forward to next year, all these core power play members are going to be back. And if they continue to nail this system down and figure it out and continue to master, I can see this power play being a top 10 power play for years to come. Stats wise, otherwise, look, I guess maybe, I mean, actually, I'm sorry, I can't really say anything stats wise that jumps out to me against the Kraken. But what I will say, though, is this: you have Philip Grubauer in net tonight, and he is a very capable goalie, and he can win a game if needed. So I think that's my biggest worry if I'm looking at the Kraken so far.
You know, I think that's fair, including that the stats really don't worry you, because why would they? To your point, you have a top 10 power play. We do not. It's a top 30 power play in a 32 season in a 32 team league. Penalty kill, we do outrank on the penalty kill a little bit here, but the Seattle Kraken as of late, especially in the second period, that second frame, oh my goodness, it's like goal on goal on goal, just giving up so many goals, which leads to the goals for, goals against. I always look at this to get a vibe of like, how much of my hair am I going to be pulling out for a Seattle Kraken game? If you look at the goals for, we're averaging 2.59 goals. That's only 30th in, again, a 32 team league where you're in the top 20.
Yep.
Literally just under 3 goals a game.
3 goals.
But then look at how many goals we're giving up. You mentioned Philip Grubauer. We also have Drieger, who's been getting a little bit more rotation. I mentioned that Joey Daccord is expected to get some time. But these goalies, man, we've been putting them through the ringer all season.
Hey.
Defensive breakdowns, poor exits, poor entries, that become sloppy turnovers. And so, yeah, some of these numbers are unfair to our goalies, and we're giving up almost 3.5 goals a game, and that's not going to win you many hockey games.
Definitely not. And that's why, many Canucks fans will say we are very happy to have Thatcher Demko in net, because Thatcher Demko this year has really solidified himself, in my personal opinion, and I think many Canucks fans would agree. He is an all-star caliber goalie, an elite goalie, and just how much that does for a team confidence-wise, knowing that, hey, we have a guy back there that we could take some chances and he will stop more shots than he allows in, right? And I guess that's a big reason why the Canucks are 11th in goals, 11th in goals allowed at 2.85, because they have a guy in Thatcher Demko who can shut teams down. And it's just been, I think, more so the Canucks, defense is kind of a testament to how good their goaltending has been this year with Thatcher Demko, more so than the actual defense core itself. Because as we all know, the Canucks on the defense core, it needs some work. It needs some work. And but we have the goalie, the backbone of your team solidified in Thatcher Demko. So which is another positive going for the Canucks.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so let's talk a little bit about players to watch here. We see that if we looked at the head-to-head on the screen before, it's for the Seattle Kraken, Jared McCann, Yanni Gourde, Vince Dunn, and Victor Rask. That being said, Vince Dunn is day to day. So
Mhm.
we don't know defensively what he's going to be able to do, but in the last 5 games has collected 5 assists. Victor Rask and Jared McCann, along with the rookie number 2 pick overall, Matty Beniers. They
Mhm.
just recently had their point streak snapped, but looking to get them going again. But Yanni Gourde just got his 100th goal and is probably, especially among players that are still with the team, the Seattle Kraken will be doing a vote, a fan vote, and a media vote for MVP of the season. And I got to think that Yanni Gourde, 3 goals in the last 5 games, is up at the top of the list. I'd have to give, some special consideration, though, again, to Philip Grubauer in particular. Drieger on the IR a few times with random injuries, and Grubauer had to do a lot of work for a team that, again, was giving up a lot of goals. I know you mentioned some players earlier, but for your money, Justin, who are some players to watch and maybe even some players to bet on when you're looking at those bet online lines and odds for this
Definitely,
game?
definitely. I'm actually interested in Spencer Martin. So Spencer Martin just got recalled because Yaroslav Halak is out with injury. I am intrigued to see what Spencer Martin can do. He's expected to start tonight. Potentially, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'm interested because remember he played a couple games earlier this year and was a revelation. He had a 9.958 save percentage, 1.59 goals against average, and I see him next year stepping into being Thatcher Demko's full-time backup. So I'm interested to see what Spencer Martin can provide in net. On the offensive front, I think I want to see JT Miller get to 100 points. That's where I would want to put my money on JT Miller getting a couple points tonight. Also, Connor Garland. Connor Garland got off to an extremely hot start coming over from Arizona, tailed off a lot in the middle of the season, but of late he's picked it right back up. And like I said, I want to see him hit the 20-goal plateau. So I like Connor Garland, JT Miller, and Spencer Martin tonight are my 3 players to kind of watch tonight against the Kraken.
I love it. I love it. Well, you got to play the games. That's how we know for sure how everything pans out. But coming up next, we're going to give our predictions for how this game is going to go. But then also, we want our fans to know our co-hosts from around the network. So, Justin, I'm going to let Kraken fans get to know a little bit about you, ask you a few questions, and then we'll do the same and let Vancouver Canucks fans know a little bit about me. That's what's
Perfect.
coming up on our crossover.
But first, before we do that, I want to talk to you guys about Rock Auto. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions like, is your Odyssey an LX or EX? All those confusing questions that nobody really wants to answer, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have a computer at home and you have access to rockauto.com also in your pocket with your phone. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership when you can use Rock Auto? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over the last 20 years. And as I mentioned before, their prices are reliably low for every customer, and they have everything you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So today, I want you guys to go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right locked on in their "How did you hear about us" section, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. We're back, Erica. And I know you want your fans to get to know what it's like to be a Canucks fan, so I'm here to answer all the questions Kraken fans might want to know about the sometimes awesome, sometimes disheartening life of being a Vancouver Canucks fan.
All right, well, let's get it started because, I'm sure Kraken fans, especially watching on YouTube, have noticed that you've got that Mariners cap
Mhm.
on. But, Vancouver does not have an MLB team. So, how did you become a Seattle Mariners fan and a host of Locked On Canucks?
So
Let's start there.
okay, so I'm from Vancouver, and as many people know in Seattle, Vancouver is an hour and a half drive or so from Seattle or to Seattle, just down the I-5 through the border right there. So growing up, we would always go to Seattle all the time, whether that's shopping because things are cheaper there, getting gas. Gas is very expensive these days in the world, so traveling down to the States for us was always a convenient factor. And sports wise, growing up, of course, the for all you guys out there, the Seahawks and the Canucks are my two teams like I will go to the grave with, like loving for life. So simply because they're the closest thing in proximity to what we saw. So diehard Seahawks fan, diehard Canucks fan. Mariners, that's okay. So here's the thing. In Canada, right? It's the Blue Jays are the only team, and they get kind of shoved down our throat. And me, I'm the type of guy that I don't want to always follow the trend, right? And again, people in Seattle might not know, might understand this, but in Vancouver, we are kind of considered the little brother to Toronto, which is like the biggest city in Canada, right? And so basically, everything Toronto kind of gets glorified as a Canadian. And everybody in Vancouver, we don't always love Toronto. We always think we're better than them. We definitely are more beautiful than Toronto by absolutely means. The mountains, the ocean, nothing could touch that. So whenever the Blue Jays would come, people would all my the family friends would always go down to Seattle to watch the games, and they'd all be wearing their Blue Jays jerseys and stuff like that. And I just wear my Mariners hat because I have Pacific Northwest pride, and that's
I love it.
yeah, that's kind of
I
my
love
story.
that. I love it. Contrarian. I love it.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, don't give me what you want for me. Let me make my own choices here.
exactly,
I respect that.
exactly.
I respect that. All right. But it's the Canucks and the Seahawks to the grave. That's what I'm
To the
hearing.
grave. On every Sunday during NFL season, I will not be disrupted during a Seahawks game. During the NHL season or a Canucks game, I cannot be disrupted unless the game is meaningless. Then I can kind of slide off. But tonight, I will definitely be glued in to watch the Kraken and the Canucks because also not only are the Canucks playing their rivals, the Kraken, they're bringing back the retro flying skate jerseys, which, as we all know in Canucks Nation, are jerseys that are everybody wants to see back on a full-time basis. I want to see them back. I think all of Canucks Nation wants to see them back. So if you're not watching it for the hockey, at least just watch it for the jerseys.
I love that. All right. Got to have the swag. I love
Exactly.
that. Absolutely. Well, I do not have Pacific Northwest ties, although I'm trying to be like, I'd like to be adopted maybe because to your point, it's absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the other coast.
East Coast.
I'm a New Yorker, East Coast ride or die. That's my ride or die for sure. I already mentioned I'm a Mets fan.
Uh,
Absolutely. I listen, 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 listen. I made my choice and I'm sticking to it.
I
So,
respect that. I respect that.
yeah, but I will say, I believe the Mets have won every series they've played this
I think
season,
they have.
so I'm holding on to that.
It's still early though. It's still
You
early in the
gotta
baseball
believe.
season.
It is very early. I already know this as a Mets fan. You don't got to tell me. I'm just saying right now I have bragging rights, so I got to take advantage
Definitely, most
while I
definitely.
can. Absolutely. We also don't throw beer cans at
Hey, I
teams
did see
from
that. That's
Ohio. I'm just saying
yeah.
that's absolutely a dig at the Yankees because, well, anyway, we don't have time for that on our NHL podcast. But yeah, so I became a host of this show because I actually started doing some freelance writing for the NHL Seattle. They weren't even the Seattle Kraken
Yeah.
yet, and really just love the culture. I come from the women's hockey space, but also, I'm Black and Latina in hockey, which when I was growing up, in an original six market, I was told that hockey is for white people and for
Hey,
white dudes in particular. So, women's hockey has kind of opened that up for me to see all of the culture that already exists in hockey. And I think the Seattle Kraken proved to be a team that from the start can really start shifting that narrative
Mhm.
and not utilizing, really and exhausting antiquated ideas that hockey only looks a particular way. So that's what brought me on board. I also love to talk, in case you haven't figured that out. So, talking hockey, talking a new hockey team sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, I love what you said there, Erica, about the diversity and how, growing up in New York, you felt that you were told, excuse me, that hockey was just for, predominantly white people. So for those of you who don't know, I'm East Indian. I'm of Indian heritage, and Vancouver has a very big South Asian population. And the one thing I will always say is when you go to a Canucks game, you will see people from all different walks of life there. You'll see people from the, Oriental, South Asian, indigenous, white, everybody. It's a melting pot for everybody to come because I find that the Canucks, at least from my experience, have been a sort of a beacon or a kind of a thing that everybody can relate to. And I think that's what makes that's what attracts me to the Canucks so much because everybody, no matter what you look like, everybody, we can all complain about the Canucks, we can all cry about the Canucks, we can all cheer about the Canucks, and that's awesome to hear. I think hockey definitely needs to. There's that whole saying, "Hockey is for all," and I definitely agree with that.
I love it. I love it. Well, tonight hockey is between your team and my new team. The Vancouver Canucks will host the Seattle Kraken before the Kraken come back to Climate Pledge Arena to close out the homestand Wednesday and Friday, I believe. So, all right, we already know the Vancouver Canucks. You got the series. You're going to get the series no matter what happens. But Justin, for your money, what's going to be the final score? Are we going to see extra hockey? Are we getting free hockey tonight? Or is it going 3 rounds and that's it?
It's gonna be 3 periods. It's gonna be short, quick, and simple. Kind of like when you go to the not like when you go to the dentist and they try to pull your teeth because look, the Canucks are going to win. I think they're going to win very handily. Right now, the money line is set at the Canucks minus 200. I'd actually take the puck line for all you bettors out there. So the Canucks by basically two or more goals. I'll take that. The Canucks will win at least by 2 goals. And for goal scorers, because I've been hitting on those lately, as all my listeners would know, give me Connor Garland to score and give me JT Miller to score. And for Kraken fans out there, give me Jared McCann, the ex Canuck, to score as well.
That's right. We love our revenge games. We love our revenge games. Not all of them have actually amounted to any ounce of revenge, but they're still fun to talk about. I like that. I like that pick. Seattle Kraken fans and Locked On Kraken fans know Jared McCann. He's one of my guys.
Mhm.
Ace Boone Coon, A1 Day One from when I was out in Seattle covering training camp and preseason. So, yeah, I like McCann. I also mentioned he's one of a few guys that just recently had their streak snapped. But I gotta go Matty Beniers too.
The rookie. Okay,
I
okay.
followed his career. I think he's gonna get back on track here. Been able to follow his career. I was actually in Beijing, China for the Winter Olympics,
Nice.
covered him there. Went to the Frozen Four in Boston, covered him there. So yeah, in this house, we put respect on Matty Beniers' name. And he's great at picking up garbage goals, picking up the puck in front of net, and the Seattle Kraken need something like that. So I'm going McCann. I like your pick for McCann. I also believe in Matty Beniers. Also, always love my dude, another Bostonian. The Massachusetts love. Ryan Donato, Matty Beniers. I like it. That's what I'm going with for players to watch.
But who wins the game, in your opinion?
Oh, well, see, why'd you have to, you put me on the spot there. I agree with you. The money line is the way it is because in all 3 games, the Seattle Kraken have lost by 2 or more goals, and 3 in the last 2 in particular. So I already said Jared McCann, Ryan Donato, and Matty Beniers are going to score. So I guess that means you're getting a 6th spot.
Okay, I'll take that. Hey, I will take that. I will take that.
I think it's going to be a little closer. I say maybe I think we'll go 5-4, but yes, in favor of the
Okay.
Vancouver Canucks. There
Okay.
you got me to say it. It's on the record. Good job, Justin.
Uh,
I was ready to roll into the end credits.
yeah. No. No. We had to get that. I had to get that out there before we finish this.
Well played. Well played. Well, it has been a delight, Justin, to do this squadcast or crossover episode with you and Locked On Canucks. Again, I am Erica with Locked On Kraken, and We put our predictions in, but as Allison Lucan, the amazing data analysis an analyst, excuse me, for the Seattle Kraken says, but you got to play, and that's why we play the games, to see how it all boils down. So we'll see. We're both saying that the Canucks walk away with the win at home, but I guess you'll have to watch Locked On now and follow Locked On Canucks and Locked On Kraken on social to get our post game wrap up. Justin, I'm gonna let you send us home since you're the home team.
Thank you, Erica. Like I said, I want to thank you for making Locked On Canucks and today Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, take a listen to the guys at Locked On NHL to get all the rest of your NHL news and notes covered. Erica, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow after potentially a Canucks win.
All right.